growing weary of running from room to room, practicing one-tooth insurance-driven dentistry? Then stay tuned for the latest episode of The Lionhearted, where Dr. Stephen Rasner will hand you the blueprint for what many call the gold standard of general practice dentistry.
Hi everyone, it's Dr. Steve Rasner. Welcome again to The Lionhearted. Hey, I want to begin today with this thought. I don't know if I'm supposed to say these things and date when this is coming out, but it's Labor Day. It's a Sunday, Labor Day. And you know what, man? There's 16 weeks left of this year. That's it. And a lot of times when I meet some of you, you'll ask me, how do I do all the things I do? And quite honestly, it doesn't feel like I do a whole lot. It feels like I should be doing more. But I want to tell you something. If I'm here, which I think I am to some of you, to coach and mentor you and try to make your career as maximally productive and rewarding personally and professionally, then I should reach back even deeper than I have and try to coach you a little bit. And I thought of something that I never talked about on my podcast before. And that is goal setting. And I'm going to keep it brief because I know the word goal setting kind of turns a lot of people off. But you need to stay with me for a minute because it's exactly how I was able to accomplish and still today accomplish a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish. So, it's 4 months left, which kind of brings me to a rule that I have when I lecture and I present. You'll see a slide that says the 120-day rule. The 120-day rule. And what it means is that if you hear an idea from me, or for that matter, any other speaker, and you're not sure whether to implement it or not, think to yourself, is there any way by implementing this that it will crumble my organization, my dental practice, in 4 months? And the answer is almost always, no, we can't do that. Not the stuff I give you anyway. So try it. What do you have to lose by trying something that you're on the fence about? You're not going to change things, and you're not going to be able to get to a different plateau if you don't have guidelines. And like the 120-day rule kind of gives you the freedom, to me, to say, hey, if it doesn't work out, it's 4 months, 16 weeks, so what? It didn't work for me. It doesn't lock you in. That's different than me coming on this podcast today saying, listen, this is the ticket to your way out to get to a different plateau of success. I want you to go get a CIRAC and a scanning machine. And I'm, by the way, not saying those things are negative at all. I'm just saying that's a $160,000 investment that you can't turn off in 4 months. But the things I'm going to tell you about today, and almost always, are things that if you if you gave it a try, it might make a very substantial difference. So the first thing I want to talk about is it's the perfect time of year. It is exactly when, for many, many years, I set down my goals for the next year. Even though it's September, I was setting up my goals for January through, really for now, through going right through 2020. But it's the perfect time. And I want to break that down for you a little bit and give you some meat and potatoes here. When I did my goals, and I swear to you, I did this religiously. I would break them down into basically for me, and there might be better people to tell you about goal setting than me, but since you're listening to me, I'm going to tell you what I used to do. I would break them down into career goals. So all of you listening, I don't care if you've been out in practice for 1 year. Maybe your goal that you've thought about briefly during the year, but then it's gone in 10 minutes later, would be to publish something, publish an article on something that you're interested in. You should write that down if that's publish an article in 2020. So these are career goals. Maybe it's getting or beginning your journey to get an AGD fellowship. I remember when that was my goal. And those of you that have the fellowship, getting your AGD mastership, which, can be daunting. How about starting a book that you've thought about? So there's a lot of career goals. Maybe joining a new organization and, for example, the ICOI, and making a goal of getting a fellowship and then, of course, eventually a diplomat. So they're your career goals. Financial goals would also be critically important for you to document. So maybe it's, and pardon me for examples of numbers, you're all at different levels, but saving $20,000 in 2020 for some of you may be daunting since you've never done that. You have to save something, or your first order of business, might be to pay off ugly debt. And I'm talking about credit card debt. Hey, listen, man, from talking to me that I tell you the way it is. And for many, many years, I thought it was fine to have credit card debt. I don't know, I had 10 credit cards between my personal and my business, and it was ugly. I now look back and totally regret carrying credit card debt. And you should really start making a financial plan. And I'm going to give you something else in just a second that's critical to really defining these goals, both the financial goals and even your career goals. I should have started with that, but I'm going to come back to it. And then the third goal would be, and this is critical as well, and that's your personal goals. You don't want to end up with all these achievements in the next 7 years and find out you're divorced or getting divorced, or find out that you're breaking up with somebody that meant a lot to you because you didn't treatment plan or plan. And in our world, you have to plan because you became a professional, and it requires breaking down all the parts of your life and not forgetting the things that make. I know it sounds ridiculous. How can you forget to pay attention to your family and your partner? But it can be done. It can happen. I did it. What I did the most that I regret is missed my kids growing up. And you can't get that back, man. And if you went to the trouble of having children and you care about that, you don't want to miss it. So planning a vacation. And when I say plan, I mean plan. Put money down on the room and make the airfare, make the flights. That's how I feel about course taking as well, by the way. So take the family on a vacation. Maybe this is the year for you to get a coach. So that's what I was alluding to that I want to talk about for a minute. To every one of you out there listening who are not sure, this is important, of your direction, I really think your first step is to consider seeking people who are better at these things than us that can help guide you. So a perfect one that I had for a small part of my career, and I'm even thinking of having back in my life, is a personal growth coach. A personal growth coach. Just go on Google in your area and Google personal coach. And these are people that usually have masters or multiple degrees in human behavior and can help you sort out what it is you really, what does turn you on? What does make you happy? God, I hope that you're not looking at this and say, oh my God, he's not talking about specific practice things. You're right, I'm not right this minute. I'm not doing that because I know how important it is and how to have fundamental goals, and that you get these goals sometimes by seeking help. Like, what is it that really makes you happy? Maybe you don't even know. What is it that's making you unhappy? I would suggest to many of you, it's debt. So that would be a big goal. And how can I really, get this down? Or maybe some of you, look, I meet lots of you and I hear all kinds of stories. So I can tell you one thing that's Like, this that I'm doing with you right now is a goal of mine. It's a goal that I'm not crystal clear on the outcomes. So, but I can tell you that when I'm out there lecturing now, I meet lots of you that have heard my podcast. And I hear a lot of, by the way, I'm going to give some shout outs for the first time. I hope on this podcast, at the end, I'll do 1 or 2 questions that I get, because I'm getting that many from the year I've been doing this, but I hear so many things, like, and some of you are really lost. Like you, and I'm sure that is a lot more than I know, that you're not even sure you want to go on with this career. And the reasons go from anything from lack of fulfillment because you came out of dental school and you're doing all these ordinary services for an associateship that's very ungratifying, and maybe you're just doing straight operative and you need help, you need advice from somebody like me or somebody else that's been out there for a while. And so that's why I'm doing this. I mean, I cannot, and sometimes I'm telling you this because in your goal setting, sometimes it's not crystal clear, like it's a financial thing. I don't even know the financial reward of doing what you know what I knew today? I got to do this podcast before I go out and play tennis for a couple hours, because it's important to me. I've started something that I want to continue. So that's just a little personal information for me with regards to this stuff. So I started this out by telling you have 16 weeks left of the year. So what specifically would I do? Number one, I'm not kidding. I would Google a life coach, unless you have amazing clarity on what it is you're trying to achieve going forward. I mean, in this short time. And by the way, I had short-term goals, meaning goals in the next 12 months, and I had goals for the next 3 years. That's how I did it. And I would buy a planner and all these things. And I got to be honest with you, I haven't done that in recent years, and it's affected me. I'm not as accomplished in getting things done. And look, I realize that in the scope of the whole thing, the thing called life, you might think this is too much planning and too much thinking it out. It's not. I think you need to not get caught up in the mistake of watching football only. I love watching football too, for the next 5 months and lose 5 months of your life, or going all in on binge watching on Netflix or something. I mean, you are a professional, and don't you want to maximize? Don't you? Don't you want to maximize the time thus far you've put in this career? And I can help you, and not just me, others can help you take this to levels way higher than you're at right now. And so that's the purpose of me doing this with you. So coming back to goal setting and what you should be thinking about for the last quarter of this year would be, well, what courses? That was a big part of my goals. I mean, I had this 3 or 4 page thing I started every September, and today is September the 1st. And what courses, what things do I want to get better at? So some of you write to me and say, what courses should I take? I don't even know where to go. Obviously, that's a broad question. Here's my answer. You know how I feel about the triad of skills that bring you the most impact to your career. And that triad is a sedation permit from your state or from your country. And you have to check with the governing bodies because it varies. And go back to my podcast on sedation, and you'll know why I think that should be one of the first things you do. And notice I said a sedation permit. I didn't say you have to take a continuum in it, because you don't. You got to take the required courses. Number 2, if you have a sedation practice, and I know I've said this ad nauseum, and I'm going to keep saying it, by the way. And I thought about this morning. If I was a piano teacher, yeah, you got to go over things and over things and over things until they become part of you, until they become habit. So I'm not going to apologize not that you've asked me to. To repeat the cornerstones of what I think makes a successful practice in any day and age, in any year, and in any country, and in any state. So, sedation permit, atraumatic extraction training. In the beginning, it will be hands-on courses that you take. And I give them, but guess what? They're all over the country. For me, if you want to go on the Rasner Institute, you'll see I get 4 to 5 courses a year. And I also go on the road and do hands-on with models, and that's where you'll start. But to me, so the 3 are sedation, atraumatic extractions, which could be, and then site development, which is grafting. That's about an easy 2-year forever training. What do I mean? It takes a year or 2. You can learn to take teeth out very quickly, atraumatically. Grafting, about what to use when, what to put in what type of socket, what if you lost a buccal plate of bone, when to use a titanium mesh membrane or a cytoplastic reinforced with titanium, when to use collagen plugs on top of your socket and versus free gingival grafts or connective tissue grafts. That's a several year development, and quite honestly, it goes on forever. And there's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't be discouraged by that. That's what it is. And then to me, if you're in that genre of training, I don't know why you wouldn't get into the most life-changing skill set you could ever master, and that would be implant training. So they're mine, but that does not preclude other things that you could get into that I think as a GP you need to be very proficient at. And that would be if you're not doing endo or you don't feel confident in endo, there's no doubt that I would take a continuum in endo for the next couple years, or branch out right now and sign up for a single course. And there's multiple places to learn. And if you want to call me, write to me and ask me, I'll be glad to give you my opinions on where to learn what. It's restorative. The level and disparity of how well a regular class 2 or 3 restoration is done in our profession is enormous, isn't it? We all look at our patients, our new patients that come in to see us, and quite frankly, it's rare that I look into a patient's mouth and am blown away by beautifully done, I'm talking direct dentistry, beautifully done composites, great marginal ridges and great contacts. It is a skill, and it's not a skill that you're proficient at when you get out of dental school. So the list is endless. I think your goal needs to be, you need to start improving. This is what happened to me. I tried in dental school and I was okay. My grades weren't good enough to get into a post-grad program. So being who I am, I was almost forced to start taking courses to feel competent. And it becomes a chain. As soon as you start taking this course, you'll meet somebody at that course that'll tell you about another course. This is just how it works. And on and on and on. And, if you love dentistry, like most of you do that write to me, that listen to this podcast, then you're going to love taking CE. It all feels so good. Oh my God, you get out of the office. You get away from the stress that does come from running a business. And it's such an inspiring, refreshing environment to take any CE. So yes, you must plan out. I used to take 200 to 300 hours a year for 20 plus years, at least 20 plus years. Now, I'm not telling you should do that, but you need to be taking something. And if you're going to, and you need to be doing it now. And you really need not to say and make a final conclusion that this profession isn't for you until you've done service to that, until you've done justice to getting out and taking some CE. Okay. And I would, when I say plan CE, what I mean by that is you need to take, in my opinion, at least 2 one-day, I'm being pretty conservative. I would say 3 one-day courses somewhere in the next 12 months and start a continuum, meaning it's a series of courses in some arena that you think you're interested in, whether it's root canal, orthodontics, atraumatic extractions and site development, like I pointed out, implant training, whatever that is. Okay. So I know I'm all over the map, and I have to be with this conversation, because what I'm trying to get to you to think about today is what's your game plan? I mean, are you just going to go from September 1st to December 31st, just as it is, make no plans for your practice, your career, your personal life going forward now? And now's the time to do that. It's right now. And anybody in any business that's had a degree of success does what I'm telling you. You've got to listen to me. You've got to leave this podcast today and think, okay, this podcast was about a kick in my you-know-what. And it was for me to stop and get focused on where I'm going between September right now and September next year, quite honestly, with the things I've told you. What you're going to do professionally with your career, what you're going to do for your practice. And I really haven't gotten to the practice stuff yet, which I'm going to brief right now and then elaborate on in the next podcast. So let me talk about that. So remember, I started this with the 120-day rule, meaning incorporate things, try things that maybe you haven't tried to break out of the doldrums that you're in. And if you try them, even if they don't work, they're not going to crush your office. So just, you didn't invest that much to make this work. So the things I want to talk about specifically to your practice would be, you're going to hate this, 2 things that I have to make sure you're doing. One is morning meetings. Morning meetings. You know, having a morning meeting that is directly proportional to that day's productivity. What comes in that? And then you might roll your eyes at the next one, and that's having an office meeting every 2 weeks for 1 hour to rewrite the direction of your practice. If you heard another podcast, the year I did that was the only time in my career I had 3 years in a row, or any years in a row, that were down in terms of productivity. And that was, I believe, 2009, 10, and 11. My practice dropped $700,000 in productivity. And I wasn't sure what to do to right the ship. And I don't know where it came from. I don't remember. But I said, monthly meetings that I've had, and I had monthly meetings once a month, 1 hour, sometimes an hour and a half, for my whole career until 2011, when I had every 2 week meetings. And I can't be, I'm being honest with you, as I always am in these podcasts, I don't do them all the time now, because things, it's probably a wrong idea. Things have been really well for a long time. I think it's because I bring in, I micromanage a lot. And, a lot of people would eat me alive for saying that, but I do. But the 2 week meeting gets stuff done. Whereas the monthly meeting kind of fades. And when I'm talking monthly meetings, I'm talking about really doing things like, what's the recall program we have in the office right now, and is that working? And I'm going to come back to each of these in the next podcast. How about our insurance department and our billing department? How current and effective is that? If you listen to my podcast, about 8 years ago, I brought in a forensic accountant. Most people that bring in forensic accountants bring them in because they suspect embezzlement. I just wanted to know where the money was. Like, where's all the revenues that come in here? And I'm a guy that has professed to you that I think it's important to run an effective dental practice to get paid up front. Yet when I brought in a forensic accountant, I found that I had over $200,000 of completed services on the streets not paid for. And I was flabbergasted. And I want to talk, that went right back to a not effective and a not clean insurance and billing system that I had in place. How about your marketing? Do you even do any marketing? You've done the same marketing for the last several years and you're in this horizontal envelope of non-growth? I don't want that for you. How about your case presentation skills? Have you paid attention? Is anybody tracking how many people you convert into a treatment plan that actually need work? There's a lot to talk about. I hope this podcast served as a wake-up call, because sometimes you need that. Sometimes you need somebody, and hopefully that's me, to say, hey man, where am I at right now? Everything from personal to financial to career-wise and to your individual practice. So thanks for tuning in to The Lionhearted. You can reach me at Dr. Rasner at AOL. Dr. my name, Rasner at AOL, with any questions. Oh, real quick, I want to do one or two shout outs to guys that asked me really important questions. So to Frank in Massachusetts, who recently wrote to me. He wanted to know how I handle last minute cancellations and no-shows. And more importantly, how do I prevent them? I have your answer. Number one, I do not charge for broken appointments. You know why? Because it creates nothing but negative will. There's no money you could charge and collect. I don't care if it's $100. You can't collect enough for the negative will it's going to create in the patient that you're charging. It's impossible. And here's what I look at. I look at a broken appointment, which happens to me, not much, but it does, especially in hygiene. I look at it as a failed system of mine, and I got to eat it, as opposed to punishing the patient for not showing. You need all the goodwill you can have in the world, especially today with social media. And I'm telling you, charging a patient, in my opinion, under my philosophy for a broken appointment, does nothing for you. What? So you get $100? Is that really going to fix it? You'll never get the patient again. And they're going to tell everybody anything they can think of, that your office is dirty, to anything that comes to their mind that they didn't like about your office. They'll tell as many people as they can. You need all the goodwill you can get. What helps to reduce it? What helps to reduce non-hygiene appointments, and I'll get to hygiene hopefully in the next podcast, is being paid up front. It's one of the fundamentals, and I'll elaborate that next time as well. But Frank, thanks for listening. And the rest of you, I love when you ask me questions. And I'm going to try to make it a part of the show at the end of the conversation to give you one or two of them. Thanks for listening, and see you all next week.